everyone, welcome back, and welcome if you're new to another tutorial using the Cricut Joy Xtra. You can use any Cricut for this tutorial. We are simply going to use a cutting mat. I've got my Cricut Joy Xtra light grip mat because we are going to be using paper to bring this card together. I've got 110-pound cardstock for the card base and 80-pound cardstock for the card front and the additional elements that we'll be using to bring the card together. I also pulled some gold glitter iron-on or HTV that we are going to incorporate on the card. I think it's going to turn out so neat. We've got some liquid glue and some pop dots from Dollar Tree, so let's go ahead and get started in Design Space. All right, guys, so here we are in the canvas of Cricut Design Space. I'm going to go to the left-hand side toolbar and click on the projects, and then bookmarked up at the top. I'm going to search under Autumn Cards, and here is the card that we are going to be using today. So I'm going to click on that and then edit a copy. So then it will go to the canvas, and then we'll be able to manipulate this design a bit. There are a lot of pieces to this design, and you can cut this out on any Cricut machine. All you need is a printer, paper, and a cutting machine for this. No card mat needed. This is a 5x7 card, and this is the card front. And you can see that it's got the autumn and the orange, and then the pumpkins, and then this banner down here with these three big black bold lines. So there's a lot going on. One thing you can do to understand this design is to look at the layers panel on the right hand side here. These are all the layers of the design, and some of them are grouped, like this one up here. It is the banner with the text. It is flattened for the print and cut process, and the autumn slice result right there. You can see that it's a basic cut. So if there's any confusion about a design and how it's brought together, the first thing to do is look at your layers panel. If the layers panel is still kind of confusing to you, you can go one step further and just click on Make It. And I'm going to show you this screen here. This next screen I really like because it breaks down everything on your Cricut cutting mat so you know where things are going to be. So I selected on mat and confirmed because we're going to be placing our paper on our cutting mat for all of this to be cut out. So here you can see our card base. That is just a full sheet, and then we've got the pumpkins and the squash and the banner. And then we can go over to the left hand side and click on mat number 2, and it's got this duplicated. And then the last mat number 3, it's got the autumn. Now I know a little more about this design and what's intended for this design. So we've got the print then cut for mat number 1 and number 2, and our basic cut for mat number 3. The basic cut here is where you can just lay vinyl down, iron on material, or cardstock and have that cut out the autumn. So let's go back to the canvas. I'm going to click on cancel. Now that we've got a basis of this design, I want to change a couple things, mainly this banner here. So I've already printed this out just to see how it looks, and you can even see here these lines are shifted up to the top of the banner. This says give thanks, and for some reason I'm not able to see it. So what I want to do is tweak it. I want to fix it. So I'm going to move this banner away, and you can also move things on this screen as well. If you want to break all of this up and move this stuff around, you can. It doesn't matter. When we move to the next screen, it's going to break everything up on the mat based on what's going to fit on the mat and whether it's a print then cut or a basic cut. Okay, so what we need to work on is this banner, like I said, and over on the layers panel on the right hand side, you can see that it's flattened. So let's go ahead and unflatten it at the bottom of the layers panel. And now we can see that the design is attached. You can drop down that attached file and see what is attached, and basically it's the font and the banner. So now we need to detach this file so we can edit the text. I'm going to click on the attach layer here, and now that that is all highlighted, you can see detach down at the bottom of the layers panel. I'm going to detach that. So now I can separate the text from the banner, just like so. So now I'm just going to delete that. And you can see that it's duplicated down here as well. You can also see that the text is on these two pieces here. You can go through the files and edit and remove them, but this is going to be the top layer and it's going to be hidden. So personal preference for time, I'm going to leave them as is and only work on the top banner. Let's go to the left-hand side toolbar and click on the text tool. I want to shift this over so I can see it a bit better when I drop down the font styles. And I'm going to use the Prague STD. I am a Cricut Access member. I believe that this is a Cricut Access font. It's got the A right there. Let's go ahead and collapse that so we can see this a bit better. Now I'm going to type out give in all caps. And then I'm going to minimize it in size by dragging in that corner. And now I'm going to move it on the banner. I'm going to size it down just a bit more. It's a little too large. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate that now that it is sized within the banner itself. And now I'm going to type out thanks. Okay, so this is still a bit too large. So what I want to do next, I have this selected. I want to minimize the font size to about 26.97. So let's do the same thing with the give. Let's decrease that to the same size as the thanks and reposition them a bit. Okay, so now I have the thanks selected. I'm going to go to the top toolbar and click on the curvature tool. And I want this to curve downward a bit. So just toggling that over just a bit. Now I'm going to click on the canvas screen and review. It's kind of going off of the banner there. I think I need to make this text a little smaller still. Okay, I decreased it to 23.97, both for the give and the thanks. I've already curved the thanks. Let's curve the give. We're going to go in the opposite direction this time. We're going to curve it upwards a bit, just right on the right side of that middle margin there. I just toggled it over just a bit, just to have a slight curvature to look more natural on the banner. And there you have it, give thanks. So now we've got two separate layers here, one being the banner, or three actually, I'm sorry. One being the banner, one being give, and one being thanks. You can verify your layers always in the layers panel if you were confused, but this is now 3 different layers. So what I want to do is make sure all 3 layers are selected, and you can verify that in the layers panel, they're all highlighted. Now I need to attach this design and then flatten it. So now the give thanks and the banner will be printed out together and cut out together by attaching it and flattening it. So now it is ready for the print then cut process. Let's go ahead and click on make it. So I want to place my paper on a cutting mat today, so select on mat and confirm that. And mat number 1 looks like this. We are going to cut out the card base, the give thanks, and the 2 vegetables there. And then we will move on to mat number 2 and mat number 3. So what you need to do is load your printer with your cardstock. I'm going to load my printer with 80-pound cardstock. Let's go ahead and click on continue. We need to send this to the printer. It's going to print off just like this with the added sensor marks, which is going to aid in the cut accuracy. Let's click on next. I'm going to keep bleed on. That just adds a little bit more ink around each design, which provides a little more wiggle room. If the accuracy is off during the cutting process, that bleed just gives it a little more space. And I can show you the bleed once it's printed out and cut out as well. So I'm going to also click on the Use System dialog box and click on Print. And now my standard inkjet printer has popped up. I'm going to click on Preferences, and I want to change the quality of the print. It's on standard as a default, and I want it to print on high so the colors are very rich and saturated, and this will look like more of a store-bought card. So I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to click on Print, and it's going to print out, and then I'll show you the results. So this just came off the printer. As you can see, it's got the added sensor marks. This sensor mark here with the triangle is indicating that this is the top left corner, and that needs to be in the top left corner of your cutting mat. And we've got the elements there, and you can see the give thanks. That turned out so nice. It is so well aligned and very bold. I love that. So let me remove the protective film from the light grip mat. If you don't have a light grip mat, you can use a standard grip if it is really used and lost a lot of its stick. I'm going to bring in my brayer tool here to get this pressed down on the mat. And now I need to bring back in my laptop. This is just a removable screen. We cut this out on 80-pound cardstock. I already have it bookmarked, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on that material. So now that we've selected the material settings, 80-pound cardstock, the Cricut is blinking, indicating it's ready for us to load the mat, so that's what I'm going to do. It's going to first make sure that the mat is aligned, and then it'll prompt me to press go on the computer for the cutting process. And once the cutting is done, you'll be able to see that margin of bleed, that extra ink that was printed on this cardstock here. All right, guys, let's let the cutting happen. The cutting process is done, so I'm gonna click unload. And now we need to unload our mat and then prep our mat for mat number 2. So we still need to print off another sheet and cut that out. So what I'm going to do here is turn my mat over, bending my mat away from the paper. This just helps reduce curling or bending of the paper, and just go slow. So now for these little guys here, just bending my mat. Oh, shoot. Well, try to hold on to your mat. But these are the little elements, and then, oh, let me show you the bleed. Here you can see the bleed. That is the excess ink or the bleed. That just helps with the cutting. So if it's a little off, it's not going to get immediately into that white space. It's going to have a little ink there to, you know, just help smooth out those lines. So that is what the bleed does. So now we've got our card base and then our elements. Now I'm going to load my printer once again with 80-pound cardstock. So let's go ahead and get that printed off. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep the bleed on and use system dialog to change the quality from standard to high. So once again, it's printed off with the bleed, but you can see the original text here, and this is why I deleted it and recreated it. It's shifted up too high, and when you try to manipulate it in Design Space, you can't really see all the letters. All you see is the thick portions of the font. So I just removed it altogether and added a new, and I really like this Give Thanks as well. I think it stands out a bit more. So once again, I'm just gonna repeat the process, laying this down. This is the top left corner there. And I need to select my material once again. We're gonna use 80-pound cardstock. And the same process. It's gonna make sure it's aligned, and then I'll have to press go on the computer for the cutting process. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cut out and load it off my mat, and then we will talk glitter iron-on and HTV. So we're finally to mat number 3. I'm gonna click on mat number 3 there, and it just has the autumn text, and the design is in that top left corner. So that's where I need to place my vinyl. I'm gonna go ahead and click on the screen here. I'm gonna be using glitter iron-on today. So it's saying now that I've selected the material and it's an iron-on, my mirror needs to be turned on because we place our iron-on material upside down on our cutting mat. So let me bring in my standard grip cutting mat and remove the protective film. And this is the glitter HTV or iron-on. Those terms are used interchangeably. This is the shiny side. It's a carrier sheet. And then this is the actual material itself. So our design autumn, that text is right at the top left. So I'm placing my glitter iron-on down in that area, shiny side down, and my mirror is selected on my computer. So now once again, let's load our Cricut cutting mat. Okay, so turning my mat over, removing the glitter iron-on there, and can't really see those cut lines. But let's go ahead and weed this. I'm going to zoom in so y'all can see this a bit better. I'm going to start in this top left corner here, removing all the excess, just working slow because this is a script font. I don't want to tear anything. But typically when you're using iron-on materials, it cuts and weeds pretty well. And if you're having any issues with the cutting process, you may need to change your blade. So this A here is a little tricky. Trying to figure out. Okay, so it's a little dainty. And then I've got this little center piece here. And there is the autumn text cut out in that glitter. It's very dainty and fine, but it's gonna add a nice texture to the card. and a little dimension as well. Well, we're actually gonna have a lot of dimension on this card. You're about to find out why we have all of these layers. So let's go ahead and zoom back out a bit and bring in all of our pieces. So what we have here are these two pieces that need to be layered on top of each other. And I'm gonna be using those pop dots from Dollar Tree and my poker tool from Cricut. And then this is the top layer here. So let's just move those aside and let's turn these over. And this is where all the dimension is going to come in. So I'm just going to place these all around both of these layers here. And then I'll have to remove the backers and get them stuck together. So I removed all the backers. They are sticky, and I probably should have done it one at a time. But I'm bringing in my card panel here. So you can obviously place this anywhere you would like. We cut out the autumn, so I want to be mindful of that. The project and design space had it centered. I'm thinking I like it more left justified. So that is what I'm going to do. And I like this gobble gobble text at the bottom, so I kind of want to keep that exposed, have it left justified, but also keeping the autumn exposed as well. I was also being mindful of the banner, making sure that there was no hang off. This is a larger card. I didn't size it down. It's a 5x7 originally from the project and design space, and I kept it that way. I like larger cards like this because I usually make smaller cards, but personal preference, do what you feel comfortable with and what you would like. But I want this to be on the card because this is so large. I'm going to make my card base a 5x7 as well. There's not going to be a margin between the panel and the card base. And I usually have a margin if you watch any of my other homemade cards. But for this one's going to be a bit different. So now I'm layering the second layer, really making sure to line that up the best that I can. And remember, if you want to take the give thanks off of each layer, you totally can. But remember, you can always cover it up with this top layer here. And that really stands out. I love that text. Okay, so now we've got the squash, and I'm not sure if you were able to tell, it's got little kind of like polka dots on it. And then this one here, it's got little flowers. Look at the tones of that pumpkin. I love the colors of this card. So let me think on how I want to layer this. I think this needs to be the very last layer. So we've got to think here. Do we want the squash on top or do we want the pumpkin on top? A little more yellow exposed. I think I like that. So let me just build both of them up. Why not? Why not? So I'm going to just repeat the process real quick and do this off camera. This is such an easy project. You can always build cards from scratch from Design Space, but I encourage you to look through the projects for inspiration. You can always take elements from one card and save it, bookmark it to use for something else, another card. So for the squash, I left the bottom of the squash exposed. I didn't add any pop dots. Because we added some pop dots to this pumpkin, and these pop dots are the same size, it was going to be uneven. So no pop dots here, so it will lay flush on the pumpkin. And the rest of the pop dots are just keeping it elevated so it is level with the pumpkin itself. So now you can see all of those layers. And our squash is laying flush because we left that little bit exposed. How nice, guys. Okay, and cutting it on thicker cardstock makes it more like it's store-bought as well. It's also more durable and sturdy, substantial, all of the above. So let's go ahead and turn on the mini press. I'm going to turn it on low, which is just one wavy line, and let that start heating up. Because we are almost done here, and now we just need to lay this down. Okay, so my mini press just chimed. It is ready for us. So I'm going to bring that in. And now I'm going to bring in this iron on here, and I'm going to cut off the excess carrier sheet. It's a sticky material. Okay, so it is perfectly aligned on top of that text. So my glass mat is heat resistant to an extent. This is low heat, so I'm not going to bring in a heat press mat, but I'm going to go over this with firm pressure. Just monitoring it takes about 20 seconds, 20 to 25 seconds. I'm trying to get this little piece of the A there. The pumpkin's kind of in the way. So maybe a better order of operation would be iron this down first. So I had to recut the panel and recut the autumn. And I'm ironing it back down, and it's pretty adhered because the carrier sheet is starting to lift up. And I had to redo it because that part of that A did not really stick down too well. I can put liquid glue underneath that if I need to. But I'm going to leave this alone. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back off. So why I had to redo it, the carrier sheet ripped the panel. So what I did the second time was I cut it down super small. I essentially fussy cut around the text, so there's minimal amount of the carrier sheet, and it didn't leave any of that residue to then get ironed down on the paper. So if you choose to use iron-on instead of regular vinyl or even cardstock, so just cut down the carrier sheet so it doesn't stick, and it's still a simple craft, but look at that. I love the texture, I love the glitter, the dimension, all of the patterns and color variations within the pumpkin and the squash, and the variation of text. So now for the card base, I'm bringing in my paper trimmer here. 8.5 by 11, 110 pound cardstock. We need to cut this down to 7 by 10 inches. So let's cut it down to 10 inches in this horizontal position. And then we will turn it to the vertical position and cut it down to 7. And half of 10 is 5, so then you have your 5 by 7 card base. Now this is optional. I have this all-in-one tool here by We Are Creators, and I need to, other way, Lainey. I need to create the center crease at that 5-inch mark. So making sure that my paper is aligned at that 0. And coming in at the 5-inch mark here and creating my crease. And then let's fold it. And once again, this handy tool helps you really flatten that crease. And now I have the 5 by 7 card base, just like so. So I have this opened up. I'm going to place my magnets down on my glass mat here. Let's bring in our card. And I'm going to bring in my liquid glue. I haven't used this in, my gosh, maybe since like May, because I was kind of ahead on the cards for a while, and it is at the end of September now. But the liquid glue, you can see it's coming out so effortlessly because I kept that pin in there. I love Bearly Art liquid glue, especially because of the precision tip. So now what I'm going to do is line this card up on that crease there on this left-hand side, and then lay down the rest. And like I said, order of operations, do what you like. You could create the base and then lay down the panel, iron this on, or lay this down and then do this. You can do it completely backwards, but the end result is the same. I think I didn't align that up very well. Let's see if it'll shift. No, I need to trim it with my paper trimmer. So this is the finished card. I hope you enjoyed the layering and the little added texture with the glitter iron-on. I hope you learned a little as well. You can always change the color of the card base or create your margin by trimming this down. You have so many other ways that you can turn this card into your own. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Give this video a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you in the next Card or Craft. Bye everyone.